I need us to understand the consequences of allowing people who have set out to oppress you to educate you. You have been told your entire history in reverse. Europeans teach you history as if they left Europe and went off into Africa and discovered black people, but it is all the way reverse. Black people was the shipbuilders. We were the ones who sailed off into Europe across the Mediterranean Sea.
You're Sicilian, huh?
Sicilian.
You know, I read a lot, especially about things, about history. I find that shit fascinating. Here's a fact, I don't know whether you know or not. Sicilians were spawned by niggers.
Come again?
No, it's a fact. Yeah. You see,
See, now if you look back throughout American history, you can begin to understand why Italians were not treated as whites by Anglo-Saxons. You can see why the Irish were not treated as whites by Anglo-Saxons. You could see why the Spaniards are treated differently than the Anglo-Saxon whites, and how they was only inducted into white people as a means to empower white people to continue to oppress blacks in America. It's because they spawned from us.
Sicilians have black blood pumping through their hearts. And no, if you don't believe me, you can look it up. Hundreds and hundreds of years ago, you see, the Moors conquered Sicily. And the Moors are niggers. So you see, way back then, Sicilians were like wops from northern Italy. They all had blonde hair and blue eyes. But, well, then the Moors moved in there and, well, they changed the whole country. They did so much fucking with Sicilian women, huh, that they changed the whole bloodline forever. That's why blonde hair and blue eyes became black hair and dark skin.
Not only do they carry our genes still, European whites carry the wealth that they captured and stolen from black people all throughout Europe. The castles and all that was built throughout Europe. As you see through the painting, the blacks are in the castles and the whites, who we call wildlings, were in the wild. And they was trying to raid the castle.
You know, it's absolutely amazing to me to think that to this day, hundreds of years later, that Sicilians still carry that nigger gene. Now this, I'm quoting history. It's written. It's a fact. It's written.
I know this guy.
No.
Moorish castles in Europe would turn up this. Moorish castles built in Europe.
Your ancestors are niggers. Hey. Yeah. And your great-great-great-great-grandmother fucked a nigger. Oh, yeah. And she had a half-nigger kid. Now, if that's a fact, Tell me, am I lying?
All those who were considered spawned by blacks had to work that much more aggressively harder to oppress blacks in order to be accepted by the Anglo-Saxons. You have to understand that this is why you see so much hatred for blacks amongst Italians and amongst the Irish. Why the Irish was the slave patrollers is because they had to work that much harder to appease Anglo-Saxons because they was not considered white.
In the year 711 AD, Muslim forces invaded Spain and created a society so rich and so powerful it was the envy of the known world. This wasn't the rigid, ferocious Islam of our imaginations, but a progressive, sensuous, intellectually curious culture that for a number of spine-tingling years looked set to sweep through the whole of Europe. It is an incredible story, but one that has been systematically written out of history.
It's not that it has been systematically written out of history, it's the fact that it has been placed in books that you was denied access to. It is a fact that you was denied access to education, period. This is the reason why you was denied the right to read. This is why. Because in these books, if you begin to read and learn, then you will begin to trace your lineage and learn who you are and who they are.
Propaganda, sparked by the Crusades, has given us an enduring image. The diabolical Moor, a dark-skinned, savage, alien enemy. But this character is a complete invention and tells us nothing about who these people really were.
The Catholic Church labeled us blacks as heretics when we are the founders of all three spiritual monotheistic religions. Blacks introducing Romans to our white people to our spiritual belief system, they was not able to fully digest it and used it as a corrupt means to empower themselves and to grab land. This is why every time they have issued decrees of war on people claiming to be spiritual for spiritual reasons, they have to hide and lie about who those people were. This is why they did so much books burning when they conquered Spain, because they couldn't show the world or let it be known how educated and civilized these people were.
Founded in 859 by a woman, both as a religious and as an educational establishment. Mosques were used for teaching grammar and literacy to ordinary people. In time, colleges, known as madrasas, were set up. This is the madrasa Bu Inania. Its walls are covered with the rich, rhyming prose of the Quran.
The oldest diploma issuing university is in Morocco, which is in Africa. Let's be clear about this. Let's be clear that Oxford was built off of knowledge stolen from universities in Spain. This is why they went through the process of burning all evidence that we were present in Spain. Because the Roman Catholic Church had used the false pretense that we were heretics and barbarians as justification for launching a spiritual war, when the truth is Europeans have always used, or not Europeans because blacks are indigenous to Europe, but white people have used religion, specifically the Roman Catholic Church as a means to empower them as white people and to steal land from black people. This is what religion has been used for white people on earth. Black people and not what we today consider Arabs. This school was founded by a woman. We have to understand what is cultural. When you look at the Arab community, the Arab Muslims right now, regardless of the fact that Muhammad says seek knowledge, they still deny that to their women. They're not letting women find schools or build schools in Saudi Arabia. They're not allowing women to build schools in Afghanistan. You have to be honest with yourself. In Iraq, in Iran, women face mass discrimination in those Muslim countries because they're not the people who really receive that message. So this is an indication that this was black people and black Muslims that founded this school and built Spain.
Up until this day, Granada had been ruled by Muslims. But Isabella has managed to wrestle control from them. Ferdinand and Isabella's victory marks a turning point for Spain and for Europe. The Middle Ages are over, and the West is about to embark on a new epoch of power and discovery. We tend to think of this as the beginning of an era. In fact, it's the climax of a forgotten chapter in European history: the rise and fall of Islam in the West.
The Spanish Inquisition is the launching of the Anglo-Saxons taking Europe from the black people. You have to understand the Anglo-Saxons were placed into Britain by the Romans after the Romans had converted to create the Roman Catholic Church.
After the Catholic monarchs took over the city of Granada, they began to destroy all evidence that the Muslims had ever been in Spain. In the following century, the Spanish authorities persecuted and expelled 300,000 Muslims and burned as many as 1 million Arabic books.
You see, this is the reason why you do not know blacks at once originally inhabited Europe, is because when the white people got power with the sword, what they did is they expelled blacks from Europe. The same way that whites got to America and tried to trick us natives that we were from, came over here from Africa and shipped over here during the transatlantic slave trade and tried to trick us into going back to Africa so that they can take over our land the same way they did in Europe. History repeats itself. Black people are indigenous to Europe as well as Africa and America. Learn your own history.
This was an astonishing act of ethnic cleansing. It put an end to a civilization which had flourished in Spain for 700 years. These people have become known as the Moors.
The Spanish Inquisition started with King Henry II originally when he attacked the Moors of France. I need you to understand that the Anglo-Saxons of Britain are not the original people of Britain. They were placed there by the Romans. those Anglo-Saxons then began to cleanse Europe of its black and melanated people around 1211 with the Spanish Crusade, which came to an end in 1492 with the completion conquering of Spain. And what the Europeans did was, the whites, rather, not Europeans, but the whites, what they did is they destroyed your lineage in order to take claim to your land. They destroyed all connections you had to that land, all historical ties you had in that land, to erase your existence there in order for them to claim themselves as the rightful owner of your possessions.